We're back out here once again, and today we're talking about a presentation that can really get those big bites all year long, but it can be especially effective right now. We'll talk about what it is and how I like to use it. Stick around, you don't want to miss this one.
If I'm going to catch any fish today, I'm thinking it's going to be in that. Oh, I got him. Oh, he went after it too. Here I am mumbling to myself about not getting any fish, and boy, that's a good one. On the old spinnerbait. Wow, he's got some fight to him. Come here, big boy. Ooh, that's a good fish. Come here, you get out of that grass.
And here's this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing. And let's face it, fishing in the late fall into the winter can be a mixed bag. Sure, there are far fewer anglers out on the water driving up that pressure, but the weather can be quite brutal, especially in the northern part of the country. But here in South Mississippi, well, temperatures are often up into the upper 70s, lower 80s, even into December. But recently, we had a cold front that came through, a real chilly blast. Dropped the temperature about 30 degrees. Right now, it's probably in the lower 50s. At night, it's been in the upper 30s. Now, the bass in this part of the country don't really care for that sort of weather. They don't like that temperature. But the worst part is it's also been very, very windy. We've had 15, 20 mile an hour winds on average for weeks now. That's not normally how fall is. Usually the wind's a lot more calm and usually doesn't start to pick up until January, February as we move into the spring. But right after that storm came through and dropped those temperatures, I went out to the lake the very next morning. I wasn't expecting a whole lot. I was hoping maybe to get one or two bites. It was really windy, had bluebird skies, and like I said, the temperature had just dropped. So you would imagine those bass were not in any mood to play. But I actually ended up catching some really nice fish. And what I did was, I went with this guy right here, a spinnerbait. And this right here is a Strike King spinnerbait. It's got that painted blade. I have a very small 3.5 inch little swim bait on there. And it's just one of those saltwater assassin swim baits that I've been using lately because they've been working so well. The bass really seem to like them in my waters. They don't care if it's saltwater, freshwater. The bass aren't that bougie. But the thing is this painted blade on this spinnerbait, well, it mimics a very small Alabama rig, right? And for those of you in areas where Alabama rigs are highly regulated, a painted blade or even a regular type of spinnerbait can be very, very effective. It attracts those bass, and whenever you work it, very, very slow, especially in the right areas. And where am I working at it? Well, I'm working it where that current is flowing, where I can find those current seams. You've seen me talk about it many, many times before. I look on the backside of those out points, right? On the backside of those main lake points. Sometimes you'll have humps, sometimes you'll have saddles, but it interrupts that current. And on the backside, you'll have a little bit of a slack water. And between that slack water and that current seam, a lot of time, that's where you're going to be able to find those really nice bass. They set up in that water and they use the current to bring them food. You know, it's often been said that smallmouth and spots are dumb and brutish fish, where largemouth are the smart ones. I don't know how true that is, but it seems like it's true enough because those largemouth bass can really play with that current in ways that smallmouth and spots don't. And this spinnerbait is a great tool on those windy days whenever that current is really driving. You have so many things working in your favor to make that spinnerbait such an excellent choice. You know, when I head out to the water, like I said, I wasn't really expecting a whole lot. I was hoping for maybe a bite or two. I knew that topwater and finesse weren't really going to be players. And a bladed jig, that bite hasn't been good for me all year. You've heard me say that this year has been the year of the spinnerbait for me, and that has been very true. Some of the biggest bass that I've caught all year have been on spinnerbaits, and the biggest bass out of all of them have been on spinnerbaits with painted blades. These have been super, super effective. On cloudy days, on sunny days, the bass just seem to be attracted to them. And when I headed out to the lake the other day, right after that cold front blew through, I wasn't expecting much. As a matter of fact, in this video, you can already hear me debating on what my moves are going to be for the day, because I don't think I'm going to get very many bites. But you know what? On like the second or third cast, I hooked into a nice big fish.
We had this old white painted blade spinnerbait. I believe this is a Strike King, although I'm not sure, but I do believe that is a Strike King. But I kind of want to work that painted blade spinnerbait. What I'm tempted to do, make a run to the main boat ramp, because that's going to be if I'm going to catch any fish today, I'm thinking it's going to be in that. Oh, I got him. Oh, he went after it too. Here I am mumbling to myself about not getting any fish, and boy, that's a good one. On the old spinnerbait. Wow, he's got some fight to him. Come here, big boy. Ooh, that's a good fish. Come here, you get out of that grass. Oh my goodness gracious, you're not getting up under there. There we go. That's a big fish, kids. He had me hooked up under a piece of gunk. Oh, come here, you vegan. Ooh. 5-pound bass. On the spinnerbait. All right, catching toads. Catching toads. On that white spinnerbait. Right at 5 pounds. Conservatively 4.5. That's a really nice fish. He hit it as soon as it hit the water. Actually, she hit it as soon as she hit the water. That fish is probably 22 inches, in that range. Nice big bass. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Nice belly on her. Beautiful bass. We sure do appreciate it. Thank you, sweetheart. And there she goes. All right, let's do that again.
Beautiful, beautiful bass. Easily over 4 pounds. And in that 21, 22 inch range. It was a gorgeous fish. Once again, that painted blade of that spinnerbait came through. It caught another huge fish. It's been that way for me all year. And I'm not doing anything really crazy with them. I'm fishing them very, very slowly. I'm fishing them right near the bank as that current comes by. I'm using it to get near brush. I'm using it to get near structure and laydowns, bringing that spinnerbait, as they say, paralleling the bank, right? I keep my boat where I can make parallel casts along the bank, which in that video, if you notice, was exactly what I'd done. I'd made a parallel cast out, and right in that area, there is a weed line. There's a hydrilla edge right there as that water drops off and gets pretty deep. On the inside of that, by the bank, there is some laydowns. There's some underwater trees that have been felled years ago, and an especially big pine tree that's been there a couple of years now. Right in that area is always a great spot for working a spinnerbait. I don't know what it is about a spinnerbait, but on those windy days when that current is raging through there, a spinnerbait calls those big girls out from underneath that structure. Now, I've got this rigged up on a very simple setup. This is a spinnerbait setup that I use. It's a casting setup, right? I've got a 7.5-to-1 gear ratio reel. This is 12-pound fluorocarbon, and this is on a 7.2 medium heavy. I love this for a spinnerbait. It casts out there nice and easy, and you have to be careful with how you cast these out. You have to make sure your motion is smooth. Otherwise, you're just going to get those helicopter casts, especially in the wind. The wind will take hold of that skirt, and it'll cause it to helicopter. On a bait caster, may not be so much of a problem with the line twist, but I still like to make it where that head is at the forefront of that cast and it lands in the water nice and easily. A lot of times that's going to be your best bet for not only distance, but it's also going to be easiest on your gear. You won't have to worry about a bunch of fluff that you have to peel out or bird's nests or anything like that. Now, how am I working that bait? Well, I'm working it very slowly. I'm doing just very slow cranks. You can see in the videos, I'm not getting in any hurry. I want that bait to stay down. The key to working a spinnerbait properly is being able to use your retrieve, the speed of your retrieve, to get that bait higher or lower in the water column. Because as those blades spin, especially if you have larger blades, it's going to cause that bait to rise or fall in the water column. I wanted that bait to be just above the hydrilla, just above the weeds, but I didn't want to burn it, as they say. So I had kind of a slow to medium retrieve, and that's what was working well. I could stay a couple of feet below the surface of the water and still feel it coming through that grass. And as it came through that grass, it would pull and it would tug, and a lot of times that change of direction, that erratic action, is what can draw those fish to get some really monster strikes. So, like I said, chatterbait, bladed jig really hasn't been doing very well for me all year long. The biggest things for me all year long have been 3/8 ounce or ½ ounce spinnerbaits. It's just what's been working. It's an old favorite. Spinnerbaits have been around for a long time, and I've never had as much success on a spinnerbait as I have this year. So you can bet that the deeper into fall and into winter that we get, I'm going to make sure that I have a spinnerbait tied on, especially on those super windy days. So there you have it. My secret weapon for getting those really big bites on those windy, cold fall days. Sure, you can use a jerkbait, but whenever you see that wind really blowing, instead of just staying home, head out to the lake, tie on a spinnerbait, and see just how effective it can really be. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.